Are you a filmmaker and need to raise a bunch of cash for your next film? Have you been considering doing a crowdsourced fundraiser? Well, my guest today can help you make your experience a lot less complicated and painful. Joining me today in the studio for his second visit to BK Live is one of Kickstarter's film leads and personal good friend, Dan Schoenbrunn. Welcome back to the show. And joining us also today, Denari Braxton, producer of Out of My Hand, whose very successful Kickstarter campaign video we just watched. The film has since premiered at the Berlin International Film Festival and won the Grand Jury Award at the Los Angeles Film Festival. And perhaps most prestigiously, Out of My Hand is the first film that Ava Duvernay, the filmmaker behind Selma, is putting out through her new distribution company. So I welcome Kickstarter's Dan Schoenbrunn and film producer Denari Braxton to the studio.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Happy Thanksgiving, everything.
Thank you.
By the way, I'm just going to let everybody know, this is news breaking. This was just leaked, literally. We've just found out that Out of My Hand has been is a nominee for the John Cassavetes Award, which is one of the Spirit Awards. So that's very prestigious. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You can hear a smattering of applause from the crew, and no, that's a really big deal and deserved. I should add.
No, thanks.
And
crazy to hear.
You're in good company too. So let's get into a little bit. We saw some of the video. One thing I know is that your film, which is again called Out of My Hand, is about a rubber. What do they call it?
There's a rubber tree tapper, they call it.
Tapper in Liberia, and it's a very rigorous, very, very labor-intensive job. You have to get up before the crack. The character works 7 days a week and to provide for his family, but has a cousin who has made something of a life back in the United States. So the first half is following the character. His name is
Cisco.
Cisco, that's right, of course. I just watched the film, so of course I remember that. In Liberia, and then the second part of the film is his time in the United States.
Adjusting to the States, yeah.
You actually funded the film privately, the first half, the Liberia part in Africa, but then used Kickstarter to raise money so you could shoot the second part of the film in the States.
Right, the idea
specifically in New York.
Right. Yeah, the idea was to get as much footage as we can and raise as kind of have a product, something to show before trying to do Kickstarter. So we were able to raise just enough to shoot the Liberia portion. And when we came back to the States, kind of started to plot our strategy for how we're going to raise the rest of the money. So we use that footage, obviously, as you guys saw or showed just now in the Kickstarter video, to show kind of what the mood was that we were going for and the vibe was, and to help promote the film and get people excited about it with that footage.
I know that the director of Out of My Hand, Takeshi Fukunaga, is not in the country at the moment, but you mentioned you were kind of figuring out your strategy. Does somebody like Dan, how does it work? Like if I'm a filmmaker and I want to do a Kickstarter, I know I can register on Kickstarter, create a page, get it going, make a video, but specifically, how do I know even what the proper strategy is if I've never done a crowd-funded thing before? Right. I mean, do you call these people?
I call Denari
do you show up on their door?
every day. I call him every morning.
Text messages, emails.
For the coffee clutch.
I'm his stalker. I was actually not a Kickstarter yet when Denari did the campaign, but I knew Denari at my previous job, which was a support organization called IFP, where I had supported the film. So it seemed like a natural good fit for I've been following his progress for a while. But yeah, my job at Kickstarter is to help filmmakers through the process of Kickstarter, which can definitely seem daunting and scary at first. And having launched a Kickstarter campaign myself, I know that feeling of pressing that launch button, and really just kind of for a lot of filmmakers, it's Denari being a special case, but for a lot of filmmakers, it's really the first time this project becomes real. By pressing that button, by introducing the project to the world, you're doing a lot more than raising money.
Sure.
You're announcing the film. So it can be a really stressful and scary process for a lot of people. But my job and everyone at Kickstarter in general, we're very committed to making that a little less scary. And there is a real strategy to doing this well. the first thing I always recommend, and honestly, when I got the job, the first thing that I did was just read through we have something called the Creators Handbook, which we've been developing over the last like 5 years, and it's constantly being updated with new things that we've learned.
It's a living document, I guess.
It is a living document that kind of walks you through the process in a very user-friendly way. When I got the job, I literally just read that 10 times to teach myself how this is done. But beyond that, you know, we're a very approachable company, and my entire job is to be out in the world, talking to filmmakers, whether they're working on their first short film or, you know, midway through funding a feature. My job is to go out and connect with people who are working on projects and hopefully, you know, make this less of just an anonymous going on a website and, you know, pressing launch and hoping that it works, but really something that we're lending a lot of support and strategy to.
So what was your benchmark financially? Excuse me.
The goal was 40,000.
40,000.
Yeah, and we raised that, I think, just one day before the deadline. And then we ended up getting 45,000, around 44.
Oh, because even though your goal is a particular day, and if you don't make the goal, you get to keep the money and spend it on any other way you want. Is that not true?
No, if you don't hit the goal, no money changes hands.
I was being devil's advocate.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You have to. It goes back.
Yeah,
it doesn't.
Kickstarter is an all or nothing funding platform, and you know the theory behind that is that, you know, people come to us because they're hard up for cash is a very common reason that people use Kickstarter, but actually we don't think about it as financing. We think about it as making something. And so these guys needed $40,000 to finish production on their film. If they raised $500 from an audience, there's a real chance that that film might not ever get made. So we have the all or nothing principle in place to, you know, to really like keep it honest in a lot of ways. But the amazing thing that we see is that that becomes this great incentivizer to get you to the goal. What I hear all the time, what you said, which is, we hit the goal on the last day. Your audience, it becomes this thing that you're doing together. It becomes this rally to make this thing happen, and as a result, you know, if it was just throw some money into this bag, you wouldn't have that same momentum and that same kind of team spirit that comes when you're doing a Kickstarter campaign.
I agree. I think it's really important. It makes the goal mutual, kind of as you were just describing. It makes it more of a collective effort, which really is the soul kind of crowdfunding to begin with, is involving people in engagement. And you know, like you were saying before, these Kickstarter campaigns are often the first time that people are seeing your projects. It's like that's really, strangely enough, the introduction of your project to the majority of people through these videos and through showing these early pieces of footage. So it's important to raise excitement and get people involved, and of course, it's really important to them.
They feel like, you know, not just because they've given maybe some money, but they also, at that point, they feel like now they've got a stake in your project, and they're going to want to see it through its life cycle, and they feel like they're part of that energy and that, you know, community. So I could see why that would be an advantage to you guys. So you made you made your goal within a day of your deadline, which is kind of, seems like that's not so unusual. I have a lot of people obviously are on another level, no offense, where they're making it's like phenomenal kind of thing where they just end up making a ton more. But for the typical case, they make usually there's a surge toward the end, right, to kind of.
The big moments on most campaigns are the beginning and the end are really the big moments. I find that on a lot of the campaigns that I help out on and work on, the middle is the challenging part because you need to find ways to keep it fresh and keep it interesting and new. You know, there's I don't know offhand the data on when most people hit their goal. I've worked on plenty of campaigns that get there in the middle of the campaign or, you know, right away if they've set that goal really low. But it's more a question of like, how are you making this not just a page that lives online for 30 days, but really like an active conversation with an audience? Is really like the heart of it.
And that middle of the campaign is so stressful too, because it's really when like you're kind of out of ideas about how to engage people. You know, you've sent out emails already to everybody you know, and you start to wonder, how do I expand? How do I get past just my first line of people that my buddies? You know, how do I get to the next circle of engagement?
We're going to widen down, but I want to make sure everybody knows, first of all, about your film. And unfortunately, the timing of this was a little bit slightly off in the sense that it just had a theatrical here in town. However, as we all know, the great films live a long time now, and you can certainly see it on demand eventually. But it's more importantly, as I said in the intro, You are the first film that Ava Duvernay's new distribution company is launching, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to do a series of one-offs in towns, which is great because I'm a firm believer that you can't. Why are you trying to make 7-day theatricals all over the? It just doesn't make sense.
Sure. I mean, so just to speak to that point really quickly, is our film was bought by this company Array, which is formerly a firm run by Ava Duvernay and Telaine Jones, who are just extraordinary women filmmakers and distributors. And of course, having Ava Duvernay on your side is an incredible experience. And the thing about her too is she's a director. That's how most people know her. But she doesn't act. But she doesn't act like.
She was a publicist. She's had several cycles of. In other words, she's really interested in the bigger.
She was a publicist first, and then she started a distribution company, a firm, to release her own films, and grew into. She DIY'd herself into this incredible position that she's in, as a filmmaker and as an artist. And the wonderful thing about her is even though she's this big-time director that everybody respects and everybody knows her, she doesn't act like that. With us, she acts like our distributor. She acts like our distributor. You know what I mean? She really takes on the role. She's really pushing and promoting the film in this incredible grassroots way. And she gave us these theatricals, both at the Downtown Independent and at the IFC, and some other locations, both in New York and LA. And then, just as you said, there's going to be a series of one-offs over the next couple of months. So we're super pumped.
We're very excited for you. So Google Out of My Hand. What you can mention the website. It may have been on
It's outofmyhand.com.
lower third, but outofmyhand.com.
Yeah.
And you can check out for screenings near you. And you go to Kickstarter.com and sign up for the newsletter and visit. And if you got an exciting project, consider doing a campaign with Kickstarter, right? And we'll see you at the next festival, right, Dan?
I do go to a lot of film festivals.
Okay. All right, guys. Thanks very much.